What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the Fight Maniac podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate all of you. I hope that all of you are having a fantastic day. As always, if you want to support your boy, don't forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave me a comment. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Let me know if you agree, disagree with what I come here and say. And sometimes I just feel like I'm yapping, honestly, in some of these opinions that I have, but just let me know. Today, we do have a few topics to talk about, but first, I want to start by breaking down this upcoming fight night on Saturday, September 7th. We do have, I believe it's in Las Vegas. Yeah, it's at the Apex in Las Vegas. We have Gilbert Burns Durinho going against Sean Brady. So, looking at Gilbert Burns' couple of last fights, unfortunately, he does have two losses back-to-back right now. He lost against JDM recently at UFC 299. And then he got knocked out by JDM, which was pretty awful. But then before that, he lost against the current champ, Bilal Muhammad, remember the name, who, of course, went on to then, after that fight, get the title shot against Leon Edwards. And he got that dub. So, yeah, two losses. So, if he loses this one, 3 in a row, it's tough, man. And it's tough, especially someone, going against someone like Sean Brady, who is a fucking killer and an absolute animal, who his last, if you look at both of their last 5 fights, Sean Brady's record is obviously much, much better. He is primarily listed as a jiu-jitsu guy, but we all know he can crack and he has some power and he's decent on the feet. But, I'm excited to see this if this fight goes to the ground, because even though Gilbert Burns is also listed here as a striker, I'm in the ESPN page, by the way. If he's listed as a striker, however, we all know that Gilbert Burns is also a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So, who knows? Maybe we can get some nice grappling. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Gilbert Burns likes to stand and bang too much. We saw it in the last couple of fights, He likes striking. He's a guy that he was primarily submitting guys earlier in his career, and then he evolved in his striking, and then you saw him using more. We rarely see him use his jiu-jitsu nowadays. So maybe he'll dust it off against someone like Sean Brady, especially if he's not having success. I think Gilbert Burns, one of his biggest downsides that he's had in his couple of losses that he's had is that he doesn't try to go for that. He tries to find success on the feet, but if he doesn't find it, he doesn't change levels. He doesn't really do that a lot. So I feel like if he's able to utilize, the takedowns and then his grappling, if he's, even if you are having success on the feet, this is what separates a lot of elite guys. I'm not saying that he's not elite, but obviously he's not a champion. And he's not, I guess right now he wouldn't be a number one contender fight. Even if he won against Sean Brady, he's still going to get another dub. But what separates is that, I see it recently that even though you're having success on the feet, you gotta involve those takedowns, and you at least make your opponent think that you're gonna take him down. That even gives you an advantage on the striking, because then you have them thinking that, oh, he could also shoot for a takedown, right? So this is what Gilbert has to do. And I mean, this is also what Sean Brady has to do. This fight is pretty even stylistically, if you ask me. They're listed as opposites, striker versus grappler, but in reality, we all know that these two are very good, well-rounded fighters that can take the fight anywhere. Just a matter of doing it. I think if Gilbert or Sean have success on the feet, introduce a takedown or two. That way you can have your opponent thinking, and it'll give you the advantage. So Sean Brady's, last fight's obviously looking a little bit better. I don't know. I would say I give this one to Sean Brady. I hate to say that because I'm such a fan of Gilbert. One of my favorite fights ever is him versus Khamzat, and I thought it was a great 3-round fight. But looking at records on paper, I really do think that Sean Brady can take this one. And then if he does take this one, even though he already lost against Bilal, he has more wins, on his record right now. So he, in my opinion, he is more, higher. If he wins this one, maybe not a title fight right away. He's currently ranked number 8. But if he wins this one, he just has to win one more. Or maybe, then he'll be considered a number 1 contender. And then he'll fight someone else, We have other people fighting here pretty soon. But I don't know. It'll be tough. Maybe him versus JDM might be a good one. Who knows? But I do think Sean Brady has the better chance right now on making that title run, just because his last 5 fights, he has more dubs than Gilbert Burns. But that's my opinion. So my official prediction for this one would be Sean Brady, and I want to say by decision. I can see this fight being prolonged and going all the way to the end with both guys. Having some, both guys having success on the feet. Hopefully someone introduces, takedowns and we see some grappling. But I do see this fight going the distance, and I give it to Sean Brady by decision. And then we also have Jessica Andrade versus Natalia Silva. Jessica Andrade is another person that, she has a good long record, former champ in the UFC. But, fell on some tough times, lost 3 in a row. Luckily now she's back in the winning column. She won her last 2 fights. But then looking at Natalia's record, she has a nasty record. I mean, she is currently completely undefeated in the UFC. This would be her 4th or 5th fight, I want to say, in the UFC. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be her 6th fight in the UFC. So a little bit less experience than Jessica, but I mean, looking at her record, she's got dubs going all the way back to 2017. So she hasn't lost since 2017, and that was in other organizations. In the UFC, she's currently undefeated. So it might be good, young new prospect, rising star in that division that really needs it right now. So I guess on paper, I give this fight to Natalia Silva. She has, I think, the better chance because of her record might be a little better. But Jessica Andrade is a great grappler. She can submit you. She has some nasty fucking submissions, bro. So who knows? She could bust out one real quick. That's the one thing about her, is that she can be losing the fight and then catch you with something crazy. So, I kind of want to say Jessica by submission, but I would love to see Natalia get her shot and continue to grow in that division. So right now I'm rooting for Natalia, and I think she's going to get the dub. I want to say also by decision. It's not so good when you're co-main and your main event. I am predicting decision wins, but hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we get some finishes. So that will be really nice. So that is pretty much all for this fight night. Once you start scrolling down, it gets kind of tough. Not a lot of big name people, not a lot of high ranking individuals. So, I'm mainly interested in those 2 fights. So I guess, I hope they deliver. But we have other topics to talk about. So don't worry, guys. We're still going strong. The next one was Dana White coming out in the press conference for the Contender Series. I gotta say, I don't watch the Contender Series a whole lot. I probably should, because you see a lot of good prospects and a lot of champions have came from that. But also, I do like to watch the press conferences, because sometimes Dana White, has some news, some updates, or just talks about upcoming fight. And he was talking about Alex Pereira, because, it's been rumored that he also wants to go back down again, right? We were all talking about him going up to heavyweight, and him versus Jon Jones, or him versus Tom Aspinall, and that's a great fight. But after, DDP won against Izzy, which I think if Izzy won, then I think 100% we get Alex Pereira going back down. All right. I think that's an easy prediction, easy call out right there. That call out will get a bunch of views and, hype right away, right? Who wouldn't like that fight again, obviously. But I think, he said, DDP won. I already have the post ready to go, so I might as well. So obviously he got on Instagram or on Twitter and he said that he would move back down again to middleweight. But that leaves the division in a little bit of a predicament because Dana White is hyping this fight up. He's saying, "Oh, I actually really, really love the fact that Alex wants to go back down," right? Which, if you notice, it's a complete opposite from Alex going up, right? And yeah, you want to say whatever, he's protecting Jon Jones, his favorite fighter, blah, 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 whatever, right? He's somehow way more hyped for him to go down and to go up. Why? I don't know. But if Alex is persistent about that, it seems like that we could get that. You know what I mean? Obviously, he already has a fight booked right now against Khalil Roundtree, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But that asks the question of like, okay, and I'm not counting Khalil Roundtree out, but for the sake of this argument, let's say he wins. Let's say he wins in the fashion that we're all used to seeing him now, right? Just fucking walking through people, making it look easy, right? It's tough against Khalil Roundtree because he's also a great striker, but let's just say he does, right? Okay, well, I think that's a better fight, in my opinion, than DDP versus Sean Strickland 2, right? I went back and rewatched that first fight, and I gotta say, I think a lot of people are super fast to jump the gun and kind of agree to what a lot of people have to say, So I think, I don't know, I went back and watched it and I thought DDP won, even though I'm on record before saying I thought Sean Strickland won the fight. But going back and watching it, I don't know, it's close. It's definitely very, very close, right? But I think I have a 3-2 going towards DDP. And it's all subjective because, people, us, not judges, we judge the fight a little bit differently. Obviously we're not judging it professionally. So, we go based off moments. I think on the striking, I think DDP was having more success. And I think Sean just really couldn't do a lot towards those last rounds. So I think those are the ones that gave DDP the win. So in my opinion, I would like to see DDP versus Pereira way more because we haven't seen that, right? We saw him already against Sean Strickland. We saw him against Izzy. Both those guys have wins over those two guys. Pereira and DDP both have wins over Sean and over Izzy. So why not make it, right? If Alex gets past Roundtree, why not, right? Why not? Let's make it interesting. Let's make it super interesting. And I like that. I like it more, in my opinion, than the heavyweight, especially because Alex has made that weight cut before, so he's used to it, going back down to middleweight. And also because people are fast to say, yeah, go to heavyweight, but they don't realize that it's a big jump. He had to put on probably 30 pounds. And if he wants to have success, he has to do it the way Jon Jones did it, right? Which was take a little bit of time, grow your muscles. Don't just eat a lot and get fat, because it is a big jump. And you got to realize if Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall are coming down a little bit, they don't cut a lot of weight, but if they do cut some weight, Alex has to just match them, right? He's going to be obviously the smaller guy. And I don't know, looking at a guy like Tom Aspinall, I don't know. We all say that Alex Pereira is big, and he is. But Tom Aspinall just looks bigger, bro. He looks massive. He looks thick and just strong. I don't know. It's a different type of big. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But I'm excited. That would excite me a little more, honestly. Alex Pereira versus DDP. But then again, what I forgot is that we also have to wait and see what happens with Robert Whittaker and Khamzat Chimaev, because that's definitely a number one contender fight. So, I favor Khamzat on that one. So if Khamzat gets past Whittaker, then that's the next title shot 100% against DDP. That's without question, right? So then Alex will probably wait, right? And then, it just creates a little bit of time. It's just a little bit uneven because, DDP just fought. So he, and then Alex is going to fight in a couple of months. So there's maybe room for another one, and then also the pay-per-views here for this year are also ending, right? We only have, 3 or 4 more, right? So, you never know. Alex, again, he's the pay-per-view saver. So I could totally see Alex saving the December pay-per-view, right? If it comes down to that. So there's opportunity there. There's definitely opportunity there. But again, depends on what happens between Robert and Khamzat Chimaev. So I guess we just have to wait and see. But I do like the middleweight move. I like it. I like it more than the heavyweight. Heavyweight's always there. I think if he's able to kind of balance between middle and light heavy and then eventually move to heavyweight, let's say for his last fight or two, let's say his last 2 fights, he says, all right, now I want to blow up and I move to heavyweight. Okay, fine, right? And hopefully it doesn't come to this, but if he does happen to be dethroned or at either of these divisions, then again, he still has heavyweight to go to and he still has the status of 3 division champion. So in my opinion, it's smart. It's smart to do it right now. Heavyweight takes time, bro. It's not as easy as just eating a couple more burgers or, he has to put on the right weight. Not that he couldn't do it. He could totally do it. And we all know he also has the capability of completely knocking out either Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall. Like we're past that. Like he can do it. He can for sure do it. He has, in my opinion, he has great odds against both of those guys, right? But yeah, that is one topic that I wanted to talk to you about. And the next topic, which is a good transition again, obviously, is talking about the heavyweights, right? Because the other kind of news that we've received is that Jon Jones has been tweeting, back and forth with Tom Aspinall, and he's kind of saying that that fight doesn't interest him, right? And I get it, as a fan, it sucks because you want to see him fight everybody and anybody, right? But he kind of says like, hey, look, I've already had my career. I've already been the greatest for a long time. So I have nothing else to prove, right? If he went through his crazy run at light heavyweight and then he defeated the Cyril Gane, right, who was a number 1 contender, a scary dude. But then he goes on from then to defeat the greatest heavyweight ever in Stipe Miocic. He can say, I'm good. I got nothing to prove. And why, why risk it, right, against a young, up-and-coming savage like Tom Aspinall, which could, beat Jon Jones. He has great odds against Jon Jones. That's what I would say. So why, if you want to look at it that way, I guess playing it safe, yeah, why risk it, right? But obviously us as fans, we want to see the fight. I would much rather, and Dana's also talked about this, but I would much rather Jon Jones fight Tom Aspinall than Stipe. And in my opinion, if you ask me, I think the hype for the Stipe fight has decreased tremendously. But that's just my opinion, So yeah, I do think, it hurts me to say it, but I do think we do not get to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall because it seems like if the Stipe fight happens, Jon Jones will be retiring, right? And, again, it's the fights that we want to see. It's the same argument, right? The fights that the fans want to see versus the fights that the UFC actually wants to put on, right? And Dana White said to himself, like, hey, look, I can't just tell Stipe to fuck off, right? He uses the same words, right? How are you going to tell me, no, we're not going to give you this massive opportunity. We're not going to give you this massive payday to make money just because fans want to see this other fight, right? And I do respect that a little bit because imagine how fucked would it be if instead of making that fight, they tell Stipe, no, fuck off. And then they just make the Tom Aspinall fight. And now Stipe retires, but he doesn't have because it would be a huge payday. I mean, that's the main reason why I think both of them are doing is because this would be a huge payday, even in heavyweight. Heavyweights tends to not have huge paydays before, but this ones definitely are. So, yeah, I respect that from that, but I will say, I mean, the hype for that fight has tremendously gone down, if you ask me. And that also brings into the conversation that Cyril Gane is also fighting in October against Alexander Volkov. So we're going to get a more clear picture of who the next contender is because we cannot just say Tom Aspinall, right? He's already the interim champ. So in my opinion, Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov is going to be either who fights for the, either who fights Tom Aspinall. I think that's what's going to happen, in my opinion. Right? In my opinion, look, October comes on. Supposedly, the Jon Jones versus Stipe fight is supposed to be November, supposedly, right? So October, we have Suragan versus Volkov. We'll see what happens there. And then from that, depending on what happens in November, if Jon Jones retires, then literally that night, right away, Dana White should announce, or should at least verbally confirm, Tom Aspinall versus the winner of Suragan and Volkov, right? Let's say Suragan wins. Then you can, okay, clear picture for the next fight, Tom Aspinall versus Suragan. And that's that. So I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying Suragan is going to get it. I'm not going to break down that fight just right now. I'm going to wait till it gets closer, but it's a really good fight stylistically. Suragan having great movement, and Volk also being a great striker and having some power. So it should be an interesting fight. But yeah, we just have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I guess to kind of wrap this up, like Dana White said himself, he is thinking that he doesn't want Jon Jones to retire, but it's with the tweets that Jon Jones is putting out, it seems that it could be that way, right? And that also decreases the hype a little bit, to bring it back, to loop it all up. That also, in my opinion, decreases the fight a little bit, the hype for Alex going up to heavyweight, because yeah, a lot of hype is with the Tom Aspinall fight, but don't get me wrong. Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones, that could be for the heavyweight belt and also for the BMF, in my opinion. If they make like a second BMF title, that should be it, right? Or if Max wins against Ilya and he says, I no longer want the BMF, they can make that one also a BMF. So that's the fight to make, as far as hype goes. But yes, what I think is going to happen is I think Tom Aspinall is going to end up fighting the winner of Suragan and Volkov, because that's pretty much because Jon Jones is going to retire. That's what. But even if he gets that, guys, the crazy shit here, right? The crazy part is that Jon Jones cannot make the walk. Like, that fight could be even pushed more or postponed, if it's because of Stipe, if he gets injured or something. Then the UFC has to say at some point, okay, this is enough. It's enough, right? It's because you cannot also have Tom Aspinall defend the interim title again. Like, that would be actually insane, right? If they push the fight more, prolong it, they get into a super awkward situation where they're gonna have to prolong the fight, or have Tom Aspinall defend the interim again. That, in my opinion, would be ridiculous, and that should not happen at all. That shouldn't happen at all. But it's the UFC. You never know, He already defended it once, so I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, it's a nightmare, and I don't think that should happen, but it's, it is what it is. So that wraps up that conversation. And the other topic I wanted to talk to you guys about is another thing I've seen, floating around in the socials. And that is that the UFC Noche, right, the big hype event pay-per-view at the Sphere, might not be doing as hot as Dana White or as the UFC thought, mainly because the ticket prices have massively dropped. I think the cheapest, which I think is kind of natural, closing the, as you guys close to the date, especially if they're not sold out. But to start off, the tickets were fucking outrageous. I think I saw something that like the cheapest one was like 3,000 or something like that. And then recently, people noticed that the cheapest ticket actually went now for about 800. So, which is still high, but it's not 3,000. So, that has people speculating like, oh, is this event, tanking? Is it not going to be as hot or as good as Dana or the UFC had put it out to be? And I gotta say that the first thing that comes to my mind with this event is, what are they gonna do with the big screen, right? Do you really cannot do anything too crazy. Like, you cannot have the fight playing there. That would be so distracting, even for the fighters in the octagon, because they're looking at it, right? As they're moving around in the octagon. Obviously, one of them is going to be facing the screen, so it might be highly distracting. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think all that's going to happen with that screen is going to be during the fights is going to be mainly just the fighter stats. So you're going to see kind of like, the tail of the tape, kind of like they call it, right? The stats and stuff like that, and their weight, their reach, and all that shit, their record. But then in between the fights, that's when they can do a lot of nice, crazy shit. And I hope they do this. Well, I'm not going to be there, but I hope they do this to at least, make the money's worth. I think in between fights, they can definitely play some crazy promo, some crazy hype videos, some crazy hype visuals. But during the actual fights, there's not much you can do it, right? Because like I said, it would distract the fighters a lot. So yeah, and that's one thing, right? That people say, okay, well, how's that going to look? I kind of compared it to like when people go to the movie theaters to watch UFC fights, and now it's in the big screen and it's dope. Obviously, this is a way crazier screen. It doesn't compare to a movie theater. But production wise, I don't think it's tanking because of that, even though it's questionable how they're going to do it. Like I said, I hope they take the time for in between fights to provide the fans some crazy visuals to get their money's worth, because that really is the essence of the Sphere, is utilizing the screen, right? Other than that, it's just another pay-per-view, right? But I know, call me crazy, but this whole, the card tanking. By the way, my opinion is that I don't think it's tanking. I think that they just realized that maybe the pricing was a little bit too high and it wasn't selling as hot. But it's probably going to be sold out. I mean, that bitch is going to definitely be sold out if I had to bet. So I don't think it's tanking like people say. But I don't know. To me, it's kind of a coincidence, and it's kind of funny that this all kind of started when Merab posted the picture of him being cut, and everybody was kind of wondering, like, well, is he going to make the fight? Is he going to pull out the fight? You know what I mean? So, and obviously Dana White was not happy about that. He was saying how could you be so dumb as to give O'Malley the advantage, and he's going to probably aim for that eye because O'Malley's also a fucking sniper that he will hit you in that eye. If he knows that eye is weak and is prone to cutting really fast because it's not healed up properly, he's going to aim for that, right? And it's super easy to cut over scar tissue, so he's going to probably open up that eye. But yeah, I mean, I think it's dumb. I think that, the guys and people just like to make shit up just to make shit up. So I don't think that card is tanking at all. Looking at the card overall, it could be a little better. You know what I mean? The main is dope. The co-main is also pretty dope. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez, that was also fucking dope. I'm excited for that fight. It was supposed to happen a few months back, but Brian Ortega got sick the day of the fight. So yeah, that was crazy. Other than that, I mean, it's all right. You have Irene Aldana, that's a big name. You have Raul Rosas Jr. opening the card. I thought that was kind of interesting that he's the very first fight of the night. Sometimes if, for a big hype person like that, they would put him closing the prelims, right, before the main event. The main card. So it's weird that they have him at the very beginning, but Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont is a good fight for that. That's the one that's going to close out the prelim. So overall, I don't think the UFC Sphere event is tanking, as people say, right? I think people overreact. I do think it was a good combination, the perfect storm of the ticket prices and then Merab getting cut and not knowing if he was going to fight or not. So other than that, I'm really looking forward to that card. And obviously next week, I'm going to break it down completely, almost fight by fight. Not every single fight, but almost fight by fight. Some of the bigger ones. And yeah, I'll give you my official predictions for that. But yeah, looking forward to that one. I think it's going to be good. I hope people that, spend the money, get what they're worth. If they just have the one, image the whole time, just the tail of the tape, maybe a little rough, maybe not not worth the money. But if they do have some crazy visuals going on, which obviously at home we might not be able to experience, then it will be good. But yeah. Anyways, that is all for me, guys. I will see you next week. I will be breaking down UFC 306, so stay tuned for that. As always, don't forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave me a comment. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.